Welcome to our weekday text gathering. Today is day 153 in the Circle's reading calendar, and we are studying chapter 12, section 2, Fear as a Call for Love. This section has a focus on attack and what a fitting thing to read in light of all that is going on in the world today. As for announcements, just a thank you to everyone who was able to join us for our Reconnecting with God webinar yesterday. It was truly insightful and really, really enjoyed it. So thanks to all. And we have our Circle News coming out today with our latest A Better Way. This issue is all about the Circle's vision for the next 2 years at least. And as I've shared before, Robert has a wonderful article in there as well on the Circle's approach to A Course in Miracles. So I hope that you will look for that in your inbox today. So I invite you to close your eyes. Take a deep breath with me. And bow your head in prayer. Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to come together today as loving friends and mighty companions on this remarkable path of light. We surrender this gathering to you, and we ask that it serve your purposes and be blessed by you. May we hear your call today from deep within our mind where we know you abide. Today we offer our prayers to all who are suffering as a result of civil unrest in America and around the world. May we demonstrate his unconditional love, his unconditional acceptance, his unconditional equality, so that our lives may be used as instruments of peace, and so that miracles may be seen through our hands. Dear God, we apologize to all we have dishonored or hurt. And we acknowledge the beauty and the radiance of all of your creations. Help us to forgive one another so that an ancient hate may be transformed into a present love. And so it is. Amen.
Okay. Share my screen. Oh, can you?
Yeah, try again.
Okay.
And kick it back to me, please.
Okay. Let me just bump up the magnification. Okay. This is a bit of a different gathering that I've got planned today. Excuse me. This section, Fear is a Call for Love, it follows right after the previous section about interpreting the motives of others, which introduced this notion that attack is a call for help. The phrase call for help or appeal for help or plea for help appears 9 times in yesterday's section. I wish they hadn't fallen on a Sunday, actually, but it did. Now, this section continues with that same discussion. It adds the very well-known term call for love, and says that not only is attack a call for love, But since attack produces fear, then fear too is a call for love. And then at the end of the section, it says that sickness is a call for love. It teaches us that if we supply the love the other person is calling for, we prove to ourselves that love is in us. Let me just read paragraph 3 here. Fear is a symptom of your deep sense of loss. If, when you perceive it in others, you learn to supply the loss, their loss, the basic cause of the fear is removed. Thereby, you teach yourself that fear does not exist in you, for you have in yourself the means for removing it and have demonstrated this by giving it. So you see that somebody else has experienced a loss of love. The symptom of that is their fear. And then you supply the love that they've lost, and you show yourself, therefore, that love exists in you. And at the same time, if love exists in you, and that means you have the means for removing all that is not love, then fear does not exist in you. It's kind of like if you have a light in you, how can there be darkness in you? The light banishes the darkness. So that's at the heart of the teaching in this section. But how do we understand the idea of attack or fear as a call for help/love? And I wanted to make this more of a conversation because I feel like there's a lot in this section we could benefit from, and that would be great. But unless we get this central idea that attack is a call for love, the section is not much good to us. And I think that idea is frequently misunderstood. So Emily and I were talking about that idea this morning, and it just seemed like let's have more of a conversation about it because we need to get the idea. There's two very, very different ways of seeing it. One, I think, is the accurate way according to the Course and is extremely helpful. The other one I think is helpful, but I think it's not real. It's kind of denial. It's putting a nice sort of mask on what's going on. So, so number one, this is the first way of understanding the idea, which I think is the most prevalent way. And it's the way, I mean, in our very first booklet, the Circle put out way, way back, probably, oh my gosh, it was probably 91 or something. Seeing the face of Christ in all our brothers. I was teaching this idea. Okay, so number one, we attack because we are trying to find love. So attack as a call for love, doesn't it sound like you're attacking as an attempt to find love? So we commonly understand this to mean that when we attack, we are really just trying to find love. We feel lacking in love, and out of that, we attack as a way of gaining love. So in the interest of having a conversation about this, I think I'll pause here. Do you want to add anything, Emily?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. Okay. My conversation idea is not working very well. Okay. So number two, our attack puts us, this is the other way, puts us in a state of lack of love, lack of health. Now, obviously, I'm saying this is what the Course is really saying. And the first thing you should notice is what he said in the previous section. He talks about call for help, appeal for help, and plea for help 9 times. And it's all about attack. He never uses the phrase call for love in the previous section, which is where the whole concept is rolled out. Okay. So if you're just attacking because you're trying to find love, how does that fit the phrase attack as an appeal for help? In fact, the very first phrase he uses is an appeal for healing and help. Like, okay, so I'm attacking, but I just want you to love me. How does that work if I just want you to heal me and help me? It doesn't seem like the same idea. Okay. But that's the main language. Um, okay. What this section and the previous one are saying is that attack puts us in a state of lack. Now, if attack is an appeal for healing, that suggests it puts us in a state of lack of health. So attack is kind of a sickness. If attack is a call for love, then attack is putting us in a state of lacking love. If attack is a call for help, which suggests the attacker needs help, it means that attack puts one in a problematic state in which they need help. So all of those terms, appeal for healing, call for love, appeal for help, call for help, they all suggest that attack is really a state of lack, a state that puts you in a kind of a deficit. So those are the two different ideas. You can see where I'm coming down. But I think it's really important to get clear on which one's right and to practice that one when we practice this notion. The whole idea that attack is a call for love is one of the most practical ideas in the course, I think. It's really, really useful because it's a way of looking at attack differently that sort of unplugs our usual reaction of anger and instead brings a response of love and forgiveness. So it's a really practical idea. But what exactly does it mean? In one, oh, you're just looking for love. Okay, so I'm definitely discouraging conversation now. In the other, you, by attacking, you're losing touch with health within yourself, with love within yourself. You're placing yourself in a problematic state such that you need help. You're in a state of illness, you could say. You're in a state of lack. So seeing somebody as they're attacking because they're trying to find love is one way, but it's very different to think, oh, your attack means you're losing. The fact that you're attacking means I should have compassion towards you. Because while you think you're winning, you're actually losing. You're losing touch with your health, with love. You need help. Do you see how different those two different ideas are? Oh, excuse me. So anyway, Emily, step in here. Say something.
Okay. So I struggle with this section. This is why I have been silent, and I am still trying to work it out in my head, because for so long I have thought that we're afraid and that's why we attack. And what this section is saying is, no, we attack and that's why we're afraid. And so it's just a complete reversal of what I was originally thinking. And so I'm still kind of wrapping my head around it. And when we were talking this morning, and I was thinking, okay, or I was saying, why do we attack? Because when we're afraid, if we're afraid first, then we can list all kinds of reasons why we're afraid. I'm afraid because I've been abandoned. I'm afraid because I don't have enough. I have a sense of lack. I don't love myself. Circumstances are bad. There's all kinds of reasons why we're afraid. And then we attack. And that process makes sense. What I can't make sense of yet is that we attack and then the attack makes us afraid. And when I was trying to figure out, okay, well, what are the reasons why we attack? It really just boils down to that's what the ego does. So it has nothing to do with those circumstances. It has nothing to do with abandonment. It has nothing to do with all of these things that we think make us afraid. It's just there's something in us that wants to attack. And so that's kind of what I am struggling with. And when I asked you this morning, well, why do we attack? She's like, that's what the ego does. And so, yeah, I'm just still kind of sorting it out in my head. And I know I'm not alone in this view, but anyway, that's where I'm at with it right now.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I think that helps because you're wrestling with it, and a lot of us probably are. I think one nice thing about we attack because we're looking for love is it sanitizes the whole thing. It makes it seem really innocent.
Well, yeah, and it reminds me of what we try and do with specialness. It's like, oh well, we try and say that we want to play small, but really specialness is about being on top. And there's something in us that doesn't want to look at the root of specialness and the attack inherent in that. Like we really want to sanitize it, as you were saying before, because what it says about us and our nature is pretty dark.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm struggling with.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. And I've been in a similar place. Like I love practically the very first thing I heard about A Course in Miracles. A friend of mine had this quote, which is not in the course, but the essence of it is all communication. This is how the quote read: all communication is either an extension of love or a call for love. And that just went in. I thought there's something really true about that. And that was the beginning of me thinking, my gosh, there's something, some amazing wisdom in A Course in Miracles.
So Suzanne is
Yeah.
disagreeing, and I want to point her to the sentence that if we were talking about this morning. Where does it actually say attack comes first in the section?
Well, it says it in different ways. Let me go ahead and put the section up on the screen. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
It's
of course, I
paragraph
can't
2.
share my screen now.
Sorry, it's paragraph 2, sentence 7. If only attack produces fear. So, okay, here.
Yeah. Okay. Oops, let me enlarge that. Okay. Yeah. We have learned surely that fear and attack are inevitably associated. So we've learned that fear and attack are associated. Well, we tend to assume attack comes from fear. But he says, if only attack produces fear, and if you see attack as the call for help that it is, the real nature of fear must dawn upon you. Fear is a call for love. So that says it very clearly, at least in terms of the relationship between attack and fear. Is that what Suzanne was asking about, Emily?
She says, I respectfully disagree. I don't believe that people attack because they just want to attack.
Well,
So,
we see an ego benefit there.
yeah, I mean, this speaks to the inherent struggle with this section. We can understand fear causing an attack, and then we can look at the reasons why we're afraid. If it's just a basis of attack, and then our fear is the result of our attack, well, then we have to look at that thing in us that wants to attack for no reason. And that's incredibly dark. And so that's where I think we
Yeah.
struggle.
For no good reason. I mean, the ego thinks it benefits. The ego thinks it grows bigger. The ego thinks it gains supremacy. The Course talks about the separation starting when we wanted to be above our brothers in heaven and also wanted to be even above God. Well, those motives they gave rise to the ego, and they're at the very core of the ego.
Andrew's asking where guilt comes into this picture.
Guilt comes from attack. So attack leads to guilt, leads to fear. That's the Course's big cause and effect sequence here.
And attack's
Now,
always the starting point.
well, I mean, once you have the others, they all lead to each other. So then you're in fear, and then the fear does motivate you to attack more. And the Course talks about that. But the original nub of it all is attack.
Starting with the separation itself, an attack on God.
Right, which was an attack, right. And which was this desire for specialness. And specialness, you probably could say, is the root of attack. Right, you want to be above, you want to be better than. So, okay, so we're probably, it looks like to me, just surveying everyone's face, it looks like we're struggling with this, which is understandable. But the benefit of it is, I think it's realistic. People often attack not because they were hurt. They can probably cook up some story in which that's why they're attacking, because everybody's been hurt. But a lot of times attack is just an attempt to gain an advantage. Okay, so there's a realism to it, but also there is a natural compassion inherent in this. Because if you think, normally we see the person who's attacking as in the position of strength, right? They're expressing strength, they're gaining something, we're losing something, right? If we realize that their attack is an instance of them losing, right now, they've lost touch with love. They have lost touch with health. They're in a state of lack. Then we have a very different reaction towards them. And I suspect we know that maybe we think we ourselves only attack because we're afraid or we're looking for love. But I suspect we know that the people that we're in relationship with sometimes attack just because their ego thinks it gets something from it. Something is not exactly love. So I suspect we sense that. And this is a way to see that such that we have a natural response of compassion.
Robert, how do you avoid a natural response of pity? Because in trying to apply this, those who attack are poor, their poverty asks for gifts. I can see attack as a call for love, but it makes me feel sorry for the other person. And I know that's not what the Course is asking of us. So how do we handle viewing someone else's attack as a call for love with compassion, but not pity, which is making
I think
ourselves special?
we have to fill in more from the Course's view of who they are. The Course wants us to honor all the sons of God, to see them as having limitless value, see them with respect and honor. So we have to fill in, I think, more. I think one thing that will help with this concept is if we kind of set aside to some degree the call for love language and use the dominant language, which is the call for help. It's doesn't it feel different to say call for help? Because call for help suggests, oh, this poor person needs help. How do I know they need help? Well, they're attacking.
The chat is full.
Oh, really?
This
Okay.
has sparked. So I'm feeling like if you have something that you'd like to add, rather than having it be a dialogue between Robert and I, how about you just raise your hand or unmute yourself, and we can have more of an expanded dialogue.
See,
Terry.
I knew we needed a dialogue about this.
Robert, can you unmute? Yeah.
I'll give you the host.
Hold on, Terry, I'm coming. Go ahead.
It's brilliant, this, isn't it? It's really fascinating. One of the things that's come to mind for me, because I've taught things like Kung Fu and Tai Chi and different things over the years, and this concept of attack and defense. But there was a true story of an Aikido master who'd won a world championship in Japan. And he was standing at the tube station in Tokyo. And he was full of himself. He just won this competition. It was all about the art of defenselessness and all the rest of it. And all of a sudden, this Japanese guy starts shouting obscenities at him at the station. He couldn't understand him because he was speaking in Japanese, but he could understand the attack, the intent. And immediately, the Aikido master was feeling affronted. He could feel himself getting, okay, if he comes near me, I'll this, I'll that, I'll the other. You know, and the irony was he just won this. The art of Aikido is the beautiful way of non-attack, you know, turning attack into, you know, to your advantage and stuff. So as this guy approached him, again, still shouting and swearing racist abuse at him, just before he came and kind of got right up close to him, this little old bloke appeared out of nowhere, and whoa, he put his arm around this big guy's shoulder and he sat him down, and within 30 seconds this big monster of a bloke was crying his eyes out. You know, and this Aikido master is looking with his jaw dropped, thinking, well, he's the true master here. This guy had used love to deflect this anger and aggression. And when it came down, the guy who was attacking was hurt. He was, whatever had initiated it, within 30 seconds, he was blubbering like a man, had put his arm around him and was comforting him. And, you know, that was the kind of story, the imagery that came to mind as Robert was describing this, whether it's helpful or not.
I love that
That's a
story.
powerful example.
Yeah, I first read that in, I think, Ram Dass's book, How Can I Help? Great story.
John.
Robert. Oh, I'm sorry. It's
John-
just there's somebody else.
John, then you, Jackie.
Okay, I'm gonna mute.
I finally got on. I had to go on my phone. I couldn't get on my phone, Zoom on my phone. Anyways, you know, when I saw that question in your comment, Robert, about how can I explain fear as a call for love, the thing that came to mind for me was the fight or flight response that we have whenever we're in fear. And it seems to me that's what we do. We either run because we're afraid or we attack because we're afraid. And I'm just wondering, is that kind of in the right line of thinking? Is why? I mean, I know we attack, it says we attack first, but I'm kind of like with Emily in the sense that I feel like there has to be some motivation there for us to attack. But I guess there doesn't, even though, because we already have that because of the separation and everything.
Well, I think we have motivations to attack, sure. I just don't think they're love. I think they're, he talks about in this section, hatred as a call for love. I don't think hatred means you're looking for love. I just think that, you know, we have reasons we want to attack for an ego benefit. Our ego wants to be on top, I think, is the chief reason. I don't know if that addresses your question or not.
Well, kind of. I'm just wondering, you know, am I correct in thinking that the other reason we attack is because of that fear that we have deep down? So that's why we either run away or we attack.
Yeah.
I think
freeze.
fear definitely fuels attacks. I mean, Jesus says early on, frightened people are vicious. So fear fuels attacks, but it's a loop. And I think the loop ultimately started with attack. And the Course makes that clear in all kinds of places. Otherwise, we're attacking really as victims, right? If this made me afraid, that made me afraid, that made me afraid, out of my fear, I attacked, then I'm kind of a victim. And my attack is really just the end result of my victimization.
Okay, that makes more sense. Thank you.
Jackie.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Sorry, I walked all over you, John. I couldn't help but when I was on my God walk this morning, because I'm doing my God walk every day, I always read I read my lesson first, and as I was walking, and I just couldn't help but think that two the two sections just came together for me. I've had a lot of opportunity in the last week to practice, because not just on out there, but in my close family stuff. I can see where people are attacking and how quickly sometimes I had a tendency to take it personally. But anyway, the two came together, and I just wrote this at the end of the commentary that I read today. Again, just to perceive only loving thoughts in my brother, because that's who he is, and perceive only the truth in him. That seems like giving him the love that he's asking for, and the hope that he's asking for. And it just resonated. And I thought, am I doing a spiritual bypass? You know, I always have to wonder about that, just to make myself feel better. But intellectually, that just, and not just intellectually, but I've had a lot of opportunity to love people steadily this week. I love that word. My little great-granddaughter was acting like a little brat. She was attacking me, the little stinker, and I did take it personally. And then with these two lessons, I get to say, Jesus, I want to love this little girl steadily, no matter what the heck she does, no matter what the heck she says, to deny her denial and see only her beauty, her holiness. And I really think that's what I'm being called to do. That's what I feel like I'm being called to do. And these lessons are pulling it together and making it a heart thing, not just a head thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Elaine, or Robert, did you want to say anything on that? Or
Well, that sounds really great. I just think that we don't want to. I don't think I noticed you using the call for help or call for love idea with her. I don't know if I recalled you mentioning that part.
Explain. I don't know what you meant. Using.
Well, you were saying you just wanted to see her loving thoughts and just see her holiness. And those are two of the main focuses in the whole course. But in addition to those two, there's the seeing attack as a call for help. And were you bringing that in as well? I don't know if I recall.
Yes, because her call for help. Yeah, because she was attacking. It was her call for help. And her help was to deny her denial of who she was. That was my answer to her.
Okay.
And then did that make sense?
Yeah,
and then I get to see. I haven't quite figured out. I've asked for what kind of behavior on my part am I supposed to express to her about that. So it's not just in my head. So that and I haven't gotten to it yet. So, yes.
Okay. All right.
And Elaine, and then we should probably close from there.
Thank you. So because the ego is insane, I see attack as one of the tools in the toolbox of the ego. So, you know, when you're coasting along, everything's fine. You're engaging with people and that, and then all of a sudden everything goes crazy. I really think that the ego stays dormant for a little while, lets you have a little pleasure, everything's okay, and then feels like it's losing ground, goes in the toolbox, gives you some type of attack, like it's not really motivated by anything. It's just attack because it can. That's what I think.
Okay. I think I think there's always a motive, you know, but I don't think necessarily is anything particularly redeeming. Okay, well, this has been interesting. This is probably a longer conversation that we need. I guess what I would say is this: what I'm asking you to try on for size is this idea that the course is asking us to see somebody else's attack as simply a state of lack. By attacking, they are putting themselves in a state of lack. So normally we see them in a state of strength when they attack. It's kind of like an evil strength, right? They're gaining something, maybe just the upper hand, maybe a sense of their superiority. We're losing something, maybe just, we're losing face. And instead, the course is saying, look at their attack as a state of lack. One of my favorite lines, I think my favorite line about this is from way later in chapter 30. where he asks us to see forgiveness as the natural reaction to distress that rests on error and thus calls for help. So our forgiveness, we're seeing someone attack us. Our forgiveness sees the real truth going on here. They're in distress about their error. And that distress over their state of error is an implicit call for help. And then if we see that, our forgiveness is the natural reaction. So the line again is forgiveness. We see forgiveness as the natural reaction to distress that rests on error and thus calls for help. And as I've been trying to practice this just in the last couple of days, I mean, this is an idea I've obviously practiced a lot over the years, but just seeing, okay, the attack is a state of lack, and that can evoke a natural reaction of forgiveness from me. So I think that's what we're being asked to see and to practice here. I don't really have to get into why they attacked. I don't have to sanitize it by saying, oh, they're just looking for love. I can just see, oh, well, they're actually losing from the attack rather than gaining. And doesn't that sense that they're losing bring out a natural reaction of compassion, of forgiveness, and of love?
And there's also the quote that's maybe a little easier to remember: those who attack are poor, their poverty asks for gifts. And so if we can keep that in mind in the face of an attack, then maybe we will be more inspired to give the gift of love to them.
Yeah. And you and I both love that quote. That's such a great quote. Yeah, poverty is a good word. Yeah, we just need to see attack as a state of lack so that suddenly they become the person in need rather than we're the one in need because we're on the losing end.
Yeah. Well, that feels like a good way to end, because otherwise we're just going to keep wrapping around this place of we attack because we're afraid, or we're afraid because we attack. So we will.
Yeah, I feel like that's a bit of a red herring, even though obviously I have my views on that. But I feel like the focus needs to be on, in their attack, they're losing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
What a beautiful concept. Truly.
I think it is. Yeah.
And it's one that we can most certainly apply to everything going on in the world today. It's so easy to see the suffering and see the protests and whatnot and just judge it, when maybe we should be looking at it from this perspective.
Well, it's a different way to look at societal ills, because we get that in society there are people who seem to be on the losing end. We get that. But what we don't get is that the winners are on the losing end as well. And
can I expand on that?
Well, yeah. I mean, the people who are who've won in the battle, whether it's, class struggle or whatever it is, the people who've won, who've defeated the others by engaging in that attack, they've lost. It may look like they have everything in life, but they've lost. And I think the view that it's not just the obvious losers that are losers, but the winners who won in the struggle and they attacked more successfully and came out on top, they've lost as well. I think it's a different view of societal problems.
Just by virtue of engaging in the attack itself.
Just by virtue of engaging in the attack.
Got it.
Right.
Okay, everyone, to be continued tomorrow.
Now that everyone's confused, now that you're completely perplexed.
No. I genuinely hope that, I don't want to leave anyone confused. I genuinely hope that two things were made clear. One is that we don't attack because we're afraid. We're afraid because we attack. And the idea that those who attack are poor, their poverty asks for our gift of love.
Right.
So hopefully not everyone is confused. Clear it up. All right, everyone. We will see you tomorrow. I'll unmute you so we can say goodbye. Thank you for being here with us, as always.
Bye.